Whenever we talk about the greatest of all time, the conversation can get pretty complicated, right? But in gymnastics, well, there's one name that kind of ends the debate: Simone Biles. So let's get into this, because her story, it's not just about winning. It's about completely rewriting the definition of a champion.
Okay, first, let's just throw a number at you because it's just mind-blowing. 41. That's how many world championship and Olympic medals she has combined. It makes her, without a single doubt, the most decorated gymnast, man or woman, in the history of the sport. Period.
And then you've got this number 5. Simone has literally bent the laws of physics so much that she has 5 different skills named after her in the official rulebook. To give you some perspective, most of the absolute legends of the sport are lucky if they get 1. She's got 5. But see, the medals, the skills, that's only part of the picture. The real question we're digging into here is a little deeper. How did the undisputed GOAT find a kind of strength that had nothing to do with a gold medal? A strength she only discovered by making the unbelievable decision to walk away from the biggest stage in the entire world. To really understand that decision, you have to appreciate just how dominant she was. So let's break down what exactly makes her the greatest of all time.
So yeah, the key thing to get here is that with 30 world championship medals and 11 Olympic medals, she is just in a league of her own. No one else is even close. We're talking about a level of consistent winning that the sport has, well, it's never seen before. And it's not just about the wins. She's a true innovator. Those 5 skills named after her, we're not talking about small tweaks here. These are massive, game-changing feats of athleticism. There are new vaults, a new way to dismount the balance beam, and 2 new tumbling passes on the floor, including the one you've probably heard of, the triple-double. That's 2 flips with 3 full twists packed in. These skills are so incredibly hard, she's often the only one on the planet even trying them in competition. Her whole journey to the top really felt like a freight train of victory. I mean, year after year, it just seemed like she was completely inevitable. So get this. In 2013, she becomes the first African American to win the all-around world title. That's the big one for the best overall gymnast. Then, in 2014, she does it again. By 2015, she's the first woman ever to win 3 in a row. So by the time she was named to the 2016 Olympic team, she was already a living legend. And at her first Olympics in Rio, that dominance was just on another level. She led the U.S. team, known as the Final Five, to one of the most lopsided gold medal wins in history. I mean, they didn't just win, they won by more than 8 points, which in gymnastics is like winning a marathon by an hour. And her own performance, just as incredible. Her total haul from Rio was 4 gold medals and 1 bronze. That set a new American record for the most golds won by a female gymnast in a single Olympics. She had, for all intents and purposes, conquered her sport. But after you reach the absolute highest peak, the pressure starts to build. And it built to a point that was almost impossible to bear. And this is where our story takes a really dramatic turn. Going into the Tokyo Olympics, the expectations for her were, well, they were just astronomical. The world wasn't just hoping she would win. Everyone was just assuming she would. People were predicting 4, maybe even 5 more gold medals. The weight of that expectation from the entire planet was just immense. And then something just broke. She got a case of what gymnasts call the twisties. Now, this isn't just a mental block. It's not like getting the yips in baseball. It's this terrifying, dangerous disconnect where your brain and body are no longer on the same page. You literally lose your sense of up and down while you're flipping through the air. For someone doing the kinds of skills Simone does, it's genuinely life-threatening. And she said it herself. In the middle of the games, she posted on Instagram that she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. It was this incredibly raw, vulnerable moment from an athlete who, up until then, had always seemed completely superhuman. So she made a decision that sent shockwaves around the globe. Right there, at the peak of her powers, on the biggest stage imaginable, she pulled out of most of the events. And let's be clear, that wasn't quitting. It was an act of incredible courage, an act of self-preservation. She chose her own safety over everyone else's expectation for more medals. But that moment, that wasn't the end of her story. Not even close. In fact, you could say it was the beginning of a whole new chapter, one where she would discover a completely different kind of victory. Suddenly free from that constant pressure to be the perfect, untouchable athlete, Simone found this powerful new voice. As a survivor of the horrific abuse from the former team doctor Larry Nassar, she became a fierce advocate. She used her massive platform to testify before the U.S. Senate, demanding accountability and real systemic change to protect the next generation. And that impact, it was recognized at the very highest level. In 2022, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest honor a civilian can get in the United States. Her legacy was now officially about so much more than sports. But she still wasn't done with gymnastics. She came back in 2023, only this time it was completely on her terms. And what's just wild is that she was as dominant as ever. She won a record-breaking 8th U.S. title and then a 9th, smashing records that had been standing for almost 100 years. This comeback wasn't for anyone else. This one was for her. And if you watch her compete now, you can just see it. Something's different. The skills are still perfect. The execution is flawless. But now there's this obvious sense of joy. You're watching an athlete who isn't competing because she has to, but because she truly wants to. So that brings us all the way back to that first question. Sure, Simone Biles has more medals and more skills named after her than anyone in history. But her journey, her story, it's shown us that maybe being the greatest isn't about being invincible. Maybe it's about vulnerability, it's about courage, and it's about having the strength to define victory on your own terms.